It was June, and it was snowing. Farmers in America woke up to find their fields coated in white. Corn shoots that had just broken through the soil were frozen solid. By noon, the temperature had dropped so fast that birds fell from the sky, and people huddled inside, staring at the ice forming on their water buckets. Across the ocean, in Europe, the sun had turned a dull, lifeless red. A strange, dry fog hung over the cities. Crops rotted in the fields, and while millions starved in the dark, a group of writers hiding from the storms in Switzerland told ghost stories to pass the time, one of which would become Frankenstein. They didn't know it, but the apocalypse had actually started a year earlier, on the other side of the world. It all started in 1815, when a volcano on the other side of the planet erupted with a force so great it changed the world's climate. It blocked out the sun, starved entire nations, and, strangely enough, led that young woman to write one of the most famous horror stories of all time. This is the unbelievable but true story of how the largest volcanic eruption in over 500 years gave us Frankenstein. Our story starts on a remote island in what is now Indonesia. Here stood a massive, 13,000-foot-tall volcano named Mount Tambora. After sleeping for centuries, it began to stir in 1812, rumbling like a giant waking from a long slumber. For 3 years, the pressure built. Then, on April 5, 1815, Tambora let out a roar. The explosion was so loud that British soldiers more than 800 miles away thought a naval battle was raging just over the horizon. But that was just the opening act. The main event came 5 days later. On the evening of April 10th, Mount Tambora completely lost its mind. It exploded with a force modern volcanologists call a VEI-7, the most powerful eruption since the 13th century. 3 columns of fire shot into the sky, merging into one terrifying pillar of destruction that climbed nearly 27 miles high into the stratosphere. The top 4,000 feet of the mountain simply vanished, leaving a gaping 3-mile-wide crater. The blast unleashed pyroclastic flows, superheated avalanches of gas and rock that surged down the mountain at over 100 miles an hour, incinerating everything. They wiped 3 entire kingdoms off the map. When these flows hit the sea, the water boiled, triggering tsunamis up to 13 feet high that slammed into neighboring islands. The initial blasts and tsunamis killed around 11,000 people instantly. But this was only the beginning. Tambora had fired its shot, and the bullet was now traveling around the world. The real horror of Tambora wasn't the fire, but the cold that followed. The eruption blasted millions of tons of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. There, it mixed with water vapor and formed a fine haze of aerosols that acted like a planetary sunshade. This massive veil of dust and gas slowly spread across the globe, reflecting sunlight back into space. Earth's thermostat began to drop, falling by an average of about 0.5 to 1 degree Celsius, a seemingly small number with catastrophic results. The first sign was a weird, persistent, dry fog in the northeastern United States that dimmed the sun so much people could see sunspots with the naked eye. Sunsets became unnervingly vivid, turning the sky a blood-red color that artists of the time captured in their paintings. Then came 1816, a year that would go down in history as the year without a summer, or more grimly, 1800 and froze to death. Winter just didn't end. In June, a massive cold front brought snow to New York and Vermont. Some places saw nearly 18 inches of it. Through July, river ice was seen as far south as Pennsylvania. In Virginia, a retired Thomas Jefferson watched his crops fail, pushing him deeper into debt. Europe was spared the snow, but it was drowned in a cold, endless rain. The summer was marked by relentless storms and floods, causing crops to rot in the fields. The grain harvest failed. The potato harvest failed. And in Asia, the consequences were even worse. The cooling disrupted the Indian monsoon, leading to drought followed by massive floods. These chaotic conditions helped unleash a new, deadlier strain of cholera from Bengal, kicking off a pandemic that would claim millions of lives in the years to come. The world of 1816 was on the brink. People were cold, wet, and starving, with no idea that a volcano half a world away was to blame. And this is where our story turns from global disaster to a stroke of creative genius. It all centers on a house on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland, the Villa Diodati. In May of 1816, a group of brilliant English expats gathered there. You had the rock star poet Lord Byron, his doctor John Polidori, the radical poet Percy Shelley, his 18-year-old lover Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin, and her stepsister Claire Claremont. They were hoping for a summer of hiking and boating, but Tambora's climate had other ideas. The weather was awful. Mary later called it a wet, ungenial summer of incessant rain. Trapped indoors for days, they started reading German ghost stories to each other. They talked late into the night about science, life, and whether it was possible to reanimate a corpse. It was during one of these gloomy nights that Lord Byron proposed a challenge. They should each write a ghost story. Byron and Shelley, the famous poets, gave up pretty quickly, but Mary was determined. She wanted to write a story that would speak to the mysterious fears of our nature. For days, nothing came. Then, one sleepless night, she had what she called a waking dream. She saw a pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the thing he had put together. She saw the creature stir with a jerky, half-alive motion. Its creator, horrified by what he'd done, runs away, only to wake up and find the monster standing at his bedside, looking at him with yellow, watery but speculative eyes. She was terrified, and she knew she'd found her story. The novel she wrote, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, is filled with the gloomy, stormy weather of that summer, a perfect reflection of Tambora's broken climate. It's a story about a creator who unleashes something he can't control, a fitting metaphor for a world at the mercy of a climate system it didn't understand. And in a strange twist, that same creative spark also gave us another monster. John Polidori took an idea from Byron and wrote The Vampire, the first modern vampire story in English, and the blueprint for Dracula. One volcano inadvertently birthed two of horror's greatest icons. While Mary Shelley was dreaming up her monster, real-life horrors were playing out across the world. The failed harvests of 1816 caused the worst famine of the 19th century in the Western world. With no idea what was causing the crisis, hungry and desperate people turned to violence. Food riots broke out across Europe. Mobs looted warehouses and ambushed wagons carrying grain. In Ireland, the failed harvest led to a devastating famine and a typhus epidemic that may have killed upwards of 65,000 people. This disaster triggered waves of migration. Many farmers in New England gave up on their frozen fields and headed west, helping to spur the westward expansion of the United States. One of the families that survived that brutal winter on their Kentucky farm included a young boy named Abraham Lincoln. But desperation also sparked ingenuity. The price of oats skyrocketed, making horses the main way people got around impossibly expensive to feed. This created a huge need for a new way to travel. A German inventor named Karl von Drais decided to tackle the problem. In 1817, he unveiled his running machine, a wooden frame with two wheels that you propelled forward with your feet. It was the world's first bicycle, an invention born directly out of a horse crisis caused by a volcanic winter. It's a powerful reminder that our world is more connected than we can imagine. A single event on one side of the planet can ripple outward, with consequences that are both devastating and bizarrely creative. If you love finding these hidden threads in history, make sure you're subscribed. And let us know in the comments, what modern event do you think will have unexpected consequences 100 years from now? The world did recover, eventually. The aerosols fell from the sky, and by 1819, the seasons started to look normal again. But the world was forever changed. The year without a summer left behind a grim legacy of more than 90,000 deaths from the famine and disease that followed the eruption. It helped launch a global cholera pandemic, redrew the agricultural map of America, and gave us the bicycle. And, of course, it gave us Frankenstein's monster, a creature born in a waking dream during a dark and stormy summer, a story that still warns us about the forces we can't control. Today, the crater of Mount Tambora is a silent, 3-mile-wide scar on the face of the Earth. Scientists tell us that another eruption of this magnitude isn't a matter of if, but when. In our modern world of global travel and supply chains, the impact would be unimaginable. So, the story of Tambora isn't just history. It's a warning. A reminder that we live on a powerful planet, and the echoes of a single violent day can last for centuries in our climate, our culture, and even in our nightmares.